We will have the second part of our conversation, and I will kind of have a chair, right? No problem. So, we will consider at first move from the point we stopped. The point we stopped was like this. Montesquieu has, research, and he considering that the oligarchy is kind of always a not pure and evil use of power. An oligarchy of peers from justice or any institutional level integrated with explicit traces on budget, public or corporate, and association by advantage and least gains, consider the modified data as the premise, as continuity, and have the rational expectation of your economic agents, micro, me as consumer, or macro, me as investor, will kind of be frustrated, and democracy and constitutionalism was threatened, but it's a conquer since 1789, and it's a evil system in all cases, an evil system with traces traceable by a regular and crude model and analysis from your budget, which implies that you are not innocent. You know things and the consequence of things made by the continuity of things you did, which is the integration of crimes from microeconomy until have a systemic crime structured by interaction of structures and departments combined in global level as globalism, which necessarily must be made by summits and forums and levels of organization in global scale, like World Health Organization, FIFA, Olympics, and others. And then nowadays you have the pandemic era. You are cornered, under pressure, and you will be convicted. The issues that you have are quite simple. Are the violation of privacy, the 33 trillion, that you have the right to be a debtor. It's not a crime. The crime is be a debtor, not in good faith, using the institutional empowerment and all illicit ways as micro behavior into the pandemic system, explained as the interaction of other systemic crimes, to do not have the payment that you are forced to do. You are under a constriction and an accusation. The analysis of the Europe before the Ukraine crisis, which is a simulation, but with things that are for real. And the core will be only the oil issue, which is basically the energy. And was an issue that was presented by the embassy of UK during a conversation, and his name was Nigel Bullis Davis. Okay, the ambassador, the British ambassador at the Eastern Europe, and we had something like the British people had 70% as troublemaker, 30% as crap talker, and when they talk crap, they create problems. So we'll keep things kind of British, like the influence that we need to solve problems. In global scale, consider maybe a building or something like this, and we'll have the design and all things. And his question is, Russia had a difficult time since the 90s and kind of have the transference of the public asset for years, and had kind of people with a lot of money and the investor that we have at present time. And how the current consequence as the constriction suffered by Russia can impact this kind of financial organization on Russia by those that they call as an oligarchy, but they are aristocrats in some ways. If they had the misusage of the aristocratic power, they will be an oligarchy. But we kind of can claim them like oligarchy right now like this. We must have the situation observed by the and have the comparative measurement, for instance, with the aristocracy inside the justice as judges and ministry and others, by the misuse which is a fact, misuse of institutional prerogative. That case is an oligarchy. And then we how these consequences are impact them. We will make a movement now, quite simple. We will have the board, you know, and it will be this board. We will raise this board. It's how the disgrace can be made considering that model that we have, which is something like this: the disgrace in small pieces from microeconomy, for instance, or the macroeconomy or the pandemic. But we will raise this board, and have a movement today. The issue is observed in Brazil. It's the modified data, the blind eye association, the abuse of procedures, which isn't a right. Isn't If it's not a right, it's something always illegal, and it's one of the reasons to have this conclusion as the wrongdoing as aristocratic power or something like this, which is the oligarchy. Then and the white collar crime law, they are unable to present all things, have the point they are maybe under an accusation and not alone by all peers inside the public body at Brazil at the interval presented, at least since 2012, but the review is going before kick off 1988 up to 2022, period of research 1999 up to 2022. Reasons for security and preventive control, considering the repressive control against the interval with blind eye association and all those things. It's going by the repression, I'd say. Let's suppose that I have my machine, two machines at my home, and the only way to have the access is at best. This machine have no remote access, no Wi-Fi, nothing. And every time you do the access at this machine, you got logged with a number. If I'm in other area, I let my machine, log it at the Google account, and then you had an entrance, the Google account will got you. And in the same way, the number when you got logged that access at the internet, you had number. If I left at the number 9 and got at the number 11, you had an entrance at the space. And you can cross this by the mobile in the same way. If I have my line named X, and you have secondary levels, S line, and in each one you have, for instance, the clone that's my entire digital life, and in some way my research, considering areas that can be the area B or the area A, or even the fusification of to both as A, B, B, A, to set a misperception of these. But for instance, if you had social network that I don't have and other traces but you as outline, the arguments and the security must be made at the consumer relationship, considering the provider as my digital access to the internet, and the website as the Google account, the email like Yahoo, the American Online and others. To get this, you violated the security of the company in the same way. And if you are doing this, you are not doing something illegal. And if it's going by an abusive procedure, you are kind of having a systematic behavior, convicted one more time at your brilliant scam as deep web or something like this. And if you are doing this against a research that became an industrial portfolio offered to the NATO, considering this presentation that you are having, you committed industrial crime one more time. This is my house, and I have on Rio de Janeiro City, and I have a small area which is my bedroom, and I have my thoughts, have my things. And this is my house as beach house, and I have a small piece here, a fragment. That's my office, my bedroom, and I have my thoughts, do my things. And for instance, I have the access from my room considering the first line as the provider as cable access to the internet, which is the provider of communication. And I have a second one by the mobile, cable, mobile. And in the same way at my house as beach house, cable and mobile. And I had problems, complained, and I have an issue with the company saying that sometimes I think that has a company inside your company. You have no control of anything. And then they will say that are you accusing the company of do something if the Sony has a game offered at the as piracy, the Sony will be blamed? And I said no, because the game is a product. This is a service, which implies the expertise that only goes inside your company. The difference between service and product is something simple on markets. Then I couldn't have the continuity of this contract as cable communication having only the mobile, but the mobile has failed. And in one specific moment I was at my beach house and do not have the access to the my mobile, for instance. And how can I have the access, for instance, at my social account on Rio de Janeiro, presenting my location as other area as 55021 622? If I'm here, do you consider the possibility as cloned mobile X with another level X and my social network and the entire things? This kind of thing you must request with the company by the complementary relation with the department, in the same way as observed at this model at the American system. Same pattern, you probably will achieve the same, operators at this kind of list activity as this brilliant scam named Deep Web. The first issue we presented, which was the violation, 32 trillion for police for more accuracy than the accusation. It's quite simple to get the point. The analysis of Europe and before Ukraine crisis, in the same way, something quite simple. We have Europe like this and the rat race to achieve oil, which goes as something at the regular markets, and we will use zero as the balance of things, which implies supply and demand properly, but we have the negative one as not regular market. For instance, in Brazil have a law authorization that a company can put the oil at the gas station only with 70% of oil, and it implies that you have 70% of oil paying 100% of value, and 30%, guess what, can be a storage of illicit value. Triple cycles of operation will give the result as 300% as value paid, and 2.1 I would say as value, and I will have 90% as storage of things, which is a clandestine offer as oil. And the rat race to achieve oil and the price of oil on present time, it make a pressure as energy on the entire economy, goes like this at regular offer at the markets and clandestine offer at the market. Distribution as normal curves, having the density of values. If we put a cube here, we will have the traces and have mapped this area. The increasement of density with operation regular at the regular side, not regular at the wrong side. And if it's clandestine, do you have regular registry about this kind of oil operation? in the same way you do at your cases. I don't know, I'm told you that you will have the same operators. We'll have the break here, second part, and move on.